I'd like to say a few things about my cousin, Myron Joe Fisher. He was born December 4th, and he passed away recently on December 26, 2023. Joe Fisher was one of the most pleasant people that I know. Joe Fisher was my hero. When I lived at 1414 East 115th Street, I recall going down to Joe's and Eva's store, located on the corner of East 115th Street, where Orville is located. And there was an apartment building, and Joe and several of his friends, Sam was one of them, they were standing in the apartment building, and they they brought me an apartment building, and they asked me who was the coolest one out of all of them. And I said it was Joe. And I must have been about 6 or 7 years old at that time. Joe has always been very amiable, very pleasant, and he has taken a lot of flack from his sister, Marilyn Payton. I do recall there was a story where Mookie, Marilyn, had gotten on Joe's nerves and he gave her a black eye. Gave her a black eye. And I'm not going to say deservingly so, but you reap what you sow. Joe was an Army veteran, Vietnam War veteran, and I believe he had one of his toes cut off. So in 2010, in December of 2010, Marilyn Mookie Payton and I had decided to take Joe on a trip to treat Joe, my hero. And they came into Atlanta. Excuse me. They came into Atlanta. Ah, and that's where the stupidity started. They got off the plane lost, wondering where the baggage claim is, where the simplest thing to do is to follow everybody else. I mean, it was like they were the Beverly Hillbillies or something. Going to tell you a story about a man named Jed. A boy around near brother kept son fed. And then one day he was shooting at some food. And up through the ground come a bubbling crude. Oh, that is Texas gold. Black tea. Was the first thing you know, old Jessamine there. The info said, yeah, no waiting there. Said California's place you'll be. And they all loaded up the truck and they moved to Beverly. That's the way it seemed to me. When they got off the plane, they were lost. And wouldn't you know it, I could see that we were going to have a bad trip because Mookie's luggage was lost. And we had to hear that all the time. So we went, I had booked a hotel in Atlanta. The plan was for me to pay for the hotel in Atlanta and for Maryland, Mookie, to pay for the for the hotel in New Orleans. And they came to, I booked the hotel in Atlanta, and so far so good. We went to look at the sites. We went to the underground. We went to Dr. Martin Luther King's church. We visited the Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial, which is no longer there, and it needed to look like it needed to have a lot of work on it, done on it at that time when we were there. The water display, boy, it was beautiful at one time, but I don't believe this is any longer there. So we went to the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and I'm absolutely certain that Raphael Warnock was a speaker at the church in December of 2010. He was a very, very dynamic speaker. I was inspired. Joe was inspired. And I believe that Mookie cried. Um, Joe had gotten saved. He decided to go and get himself saved. And then after the service, Joe and I celebrated by smoking a couple joints. And not too far from the church was I believe it was some sort of store that was owned, excuse me, by the Ned family. And Mookie has stated, Marilyn Mookie has stated as such. So, we have a great time in Atlanta and everything. And we head back to my apartment in Montgomery because I needed to get some rest, before we head on down to New Orleans. So we're driving down 65, and Mookie was acting like a fool. Y'all niggas ain't shit. I ain't gonna never roll with y'all anymore. Blasting the music constantly. The music, we had liquor in the car, we had wine in the car, we had weed in the car, and every other mile or two, cars were being pulled off the side of the road by the police. Black people driving down toward Mobile, Alabama, down 65 with weed, wine, and liquor in the car. And Joe's trying to sleep. And Mookie, very, very inconsiderate. So thank God we made it down to New Orleans. And we get to the hotel. I have no recollection of the name of the hotel right now, but it was a nice hotel, off Canal Street. And Mookie was supposed to pay for the hotel, but she had some sort of card that the hotel would not accept. So I paid for the card. I paid for the hotel, and Mookie was supposed to compensate me. So, we go down, we're hanging out, at Bourbon Street and all that kind of stuff, looking at all the the eating establishments. And Mookie's walking in front of us, patting her feet. Joe has bad feet. I believe he had one of his toes cut off, during the war, so he can't get around too good. And his feet were hurting. But Mookie's patiently putting her hands on her hips and patting her feet and carrying on and walking on in front of us. And then she has a camera around her neck, walking down Bourbon Street. And we want to know where the party is. We're from out of town. We want to know where the party is. You don't want to say anything to her. But don't you realize that people are getting their hustles on? Dog. His friend of mine, James Rose, they ripped him off of a computer. Someone in an empty box, in New Orleans. But she's walking around. Hey, we're from out of town. We want to know where the money is. we already know, I mean, they already know that you are out from out of town. You have the camera around your neck, Marilyn. So, we can we continue, we're trying to have a good time in New Orleans. We have to put up with her. We go to the aquarium, we get on one of the ships that's going down the Mississippi. Joe tries to hit on one of the waitresses. Joe tries to hit on one of the waitresses. And she's trying to be nice. But Joe's thinking about other things. That was funny. Uh, but generally, I had a good time with Joe, and Mookie is getting on my nerves. I'm trying to be prudent, be cautious with her because the least little thing you do with her, she blows it all out of proportion. So on the last night that we went in New Orleans, Mookie wanted to go out, and I wanted to go out, to hang out in the clubs over on Bourbon Street. But Joe's feet was hurting him, and he didn't want to go out. And I wanted to get some rest before I go out because I don't like going out, tired and haggard. So since Joe didn't go out, Mookie has the ass. She is mad at everybody. Me, Joe, everybody. I ain't going out. So she lays a stupid, lacking common sense behind in the bed all night evil. So the following morning, Joe and I, we go out, get a little something to eat, get some cigarette and stuff. We really don't want to say nothing to Mookie because she'll get stupid on you. And we went out, we got something to eat, we got some cigarettes for Joe and stuff. We stopped at McDonald's, returned to the hotel room, and when I got in there, I said, Mookie, would you like a cup of coffee or something? No. So I went and sat down. I started looking at television, and she was laying down with her eyes closed in the bed. And then suddenly she said, y'all some ignorant ass motherfuckers. You didn't even say good morning. And I sat down for a moment and I said, you are about as ignorant as we are for saying the motherfucking shit. And she jumped her stupid ass up over me. I got up out of my seat and I pointed my finger in her face and I told her that you better sit down or I'm going to kick your ass right here in the hotel room. That's exactly what happened, as witnessed by Joe. Now, I knew it was going to be a long ride back up to Cleveland, Ohio. You're talking about, probably about between a 13 and 15-hour trip, going up 65 and, hitting 71 on up to Cleveland. You hit 65 until you get to Louisville, Kentucky. And then you hit Cleveland. From there, 71. It was quiet the entire trip. And Mookie did not say a word, sitting over there with the ass. because I didn't find it acceptable that she should call me an ignorant ass motherfucker. She said, "You too, Rick." She gonna get her little dab in like I'm gonna take that. She doesn't know me like that. So as far as I'm concerned, it was all over with. But Mookie wants to hold a grudge. I went over to her house a few times after it happened. One time I recall, I went over there to help hook up her stereo. She just recently bought a television, and I made it so where she has surround sound in her basement. So, one time I recall that Ray was over there, and Mookie was ragging on people. Narda's just like she's just a step above Janice. Talking about Narda's cleanliness. Isn't she Rick? That kind of thing. You know. So I was going over to Mookie's house and helping her and stuff. I know she liked Luther Vandross and she liked Jill Scott. So I figured I'd take a bunch of DVDs over there to her, because I knew she liked the music. And as far as I'm concerned, what happened in New Orleans was over. But in the back of her mind, she's still holding this grudge against me because I was going to beat her ass in the hotel room. And I didn't want to end up in jail, messing with her stupid ass. So, so I'm thinking, everything's cool. I went over there, I'm helping her and stuff, and I'm having problems with other members of the family. Like Fletcher, Pat Harmon Jr. In which Mookie and I overheard a telephone call with Olivette and Beverly, in which they were talking about us like a dog. I don't care if I ever say idiom anymore. There's only one person I care to see. And Mookie and I had gathered that would be Uncle Arthur, because Uncle Arthur had did so much for my Uncle Fletcher. He used to go over there all the time, helping Uncle Fletcher. And then there was some suspicion, after Uncle Fletcher died, as to whether some property was stolen, from Uncle Fletcher's house. So, getting back to Mookie, um, I gave him about 20 DVDs, musical DVDs. And when the stupidity started to happen, my recollection is that I had received I called my cousin, Edith Joyce Fisher, and she was saying, "Hold up, Rick, I can't talk to you right now." And I sensed that something was wrong, and I tried to talk to her. And then all of a sudden, I'm on the other end of a tongue lashing by my aunt, Eddie. "Don't you start no shit, Rick." And I hung up the phone. I hung up the phone and I got in my car and I went over to Mookie's house, thinking that, she would kind of back me up. I wanted her to listen in on the conversation, of the hypocrites, the hypocritical conversation. Kissing Rufus's butt. I sensed that he was over there, or one of his flunkies was over there, when I was talking to my aunt. So, I went over to Mookie's house, so she can get in on this conversation. She left me sitting in my car in the snow. She did not come down. That's what Mookie did. Okay, so I head on back home. Uh, Next thing you know, Mookie's trying to have me arrested. Social worker comes over to my house, questioning my parenting skills with Aaliyah. A police officer, whose card I have now from the Streetsboro Police Department, came over to our house and warned me to get rid of equipment that we had in our house. He warned me because he knew us and we had been going to the police department complaining about things that were being done in our house, under our nose. So he told me that if I had any equipment, camera equipment in the house, for me to get rid of it. And then immediately, in front of him, I went and got the camera equipment that I had taken, from my daughter. And I threw it in the trash, threw it in the dumpster. But he warned me that somebody was trying to get me. Mookie has done some dirty stuff, evil stuff, like picking up my daughter from school, after I had gotten on Mr. Stupor at the Streetsboro Police Department, regarding the suspension of my daughter. When I went into his office, he tried to play me. Ho, 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 Mr. Wimley, I don't even know what you're talking about. When I told that fool, when I got on him about suspending my daughter without any proof. And the conversation was recorded. Next thing you know, Aaliyah goes out, in a panicky mode, and she blames the stuff on me. And she goes in the office crying again. She calls Sheila. Sheila tells her to call Narda. The very person that I've been arguing with that morning for sticking her stupid ass nose in my business regarding the Rufus situation. It's common. After leaving school, with Mr. Stupor, screaming and hollering and carrying on like a fool. I went over to his boss's office and had a nice little conversation with her about him. A couple of days later, I get a telephone call from the principal, accusing me of calling Mr. Stupor and Uncle Tom. And I told him that he was lying because I don't call people Uncle Tom. I call them Sambos. That's what I would call Mr. Stupor. Mr. Sambo. Okay? And I don't believe this is a defamation of character. It's simply the truth. Now, if I could retrieve that telephone that I gave to the attorney Sam Brown, he probably don't have it anymore. But I really would like to get my hands on the telephone that I left with him. I'm just curious. So I let me gather my thoughts here. I don't want to seem tangent, like they claim that I am. So Mookie had tried to have me arrested, over some stupid stuff. Okay. Now all of a sudden she wants to kill me. She accuses me of stealing my grandmother's picture when I already have the picture on DVD. If she claims that I'm not going to give you the DVDs back until you return Mama Hardin's picture. Now think about this for a minute. Why would I rather steal a picture over 20 something DVDs? A picture that I already have on disc of my grandmother in a black dress. And in spite of all the stupidity that Mookie has done, this is about Joe Fisher, my hero, who has taken a lot of flack from Mookie throughout the years. I love you, Joe, and I want you to know that I miss you so, and I'll remember you, Joe. Your heavenly smile I'm gonna miss for a while, and I'm going to be sad while Mookie is mad. Joe Fisher, born December 4th, 1943, and he passed away on my daughter Rashida's birthday on December 26th, 2023. And I found out about it by Googling Joe's name. You know, you would think that someone would have the decency to let other people know that Joe passed away. I love you, Joe, and you supported me. You knew that I was being undermined by my own family, and you told them to stop, but they would not. So, salute you, Joe, and I miss you. I miss you very much. I wanted to see you. And ironically, the day that you passed away, December 4th, was the day that I completed the story. A son who loves his mother. I'm lost for words. My hero, Joe Fisher. Hey, girl, I want you to know that I'm gonna miss you, Joe. Well, hey, I don't claim that I'm a Chuck Jackson or nothing, but Joe Fisher.